I want to start this video off by saying how much I truly love the original Final Fantasy VII. It's definitely one of my top 3 favorite and best games of all time. Now mind you, I played this game when I was 15. I'm 21 now, so about 6 years ago. And when I'm playing Remake and Rebirth, I still remember even to the slightest details of stuff that was in the original Final Fantasy VII. That's how much it resonated with me, and that's how much the story was truly memorable. And yes, I played it in a time where the Switch was a year or two into its lifespan, and the PS4 Pro has already been out for a long time, I think, when I first played the game. But despite the graphics being incredibly outdated for the time, especially when compared to the modern titles of that time, the game still captivated me in a way that few others really only have. The blocky character models and the pre-rendered backgrounds may seem primitive by today's standards, but they had a charm that added to the game's nostalgic allure. The stories, characters, and gameplay are what truly made Final Fantasy VII stand out. The emotional depth of the narrative combined with the iconic soundtrack made every moment memorable. Even though I was aware of the game's age, the experience felt fresh and engaging. In a way, the outdated graphics made me appreciate the game even more. They reminded me that a game's true values lies not just in visuals, but in the experience it provides. Final Fantasy VII was a journey back in time, and it honestly just shocked me of how good it actually was. Truly an experience that I'll never forget. Final Fantasy VII Remake was a game that going in, my expectations was a little skeptical, just due to the fact that prior to this, Square Enix has dropped FF15, which was an incomplete story, and Kingdom Hearts 3, which was a really disappointing game in my opinion. But those are videos in itself. What I'm talking about is Final Fantasy VII Remake. As soon as Cloud jumps off that train, and you get the first taste of combat, you know Square Enix is really up to something. Like, this game just feels so right. The combat is just so perfect. The real-time combat mixed with turn-based strategy is absolutely something special. Square Enix knew exactly what they were doing. But as soon as you blow up the first reactor, you notice something's off. Cloud starts walking and starts seeing fire, and then you see Sephiroth. And he starts talking to Cloud, saying stuff that Sephiroth shouldn't know and shouldn't be talking about, but yet he is. So as a person that played the original, you're sitting there at the edge of your seat like, what is going on? Why is he telling Cloud this? Whoa, what is happening? And at that moment, I knew this game was going to be something absolutely crazy. So I'm gonna sort of skim over Remake right now and talk about Rebirth, but I'm gonna still explain why I think Remake is better while talking about Rebirth, if that makes sense. Now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was a game I eagerly anticipated, especially after the high bar set by Final Fantasy VII Remake. However, after playing through it, I couldn't help but feel that Rebirth fell short in several key areas. While Remake was a fresh, exciting reinterpretation of a beloved classic, Rebirth felt like it was more about setting up the story rather than delivering a satisfying experience. One of my biggest issues with Rebirth was how it seemed to be more build-up than anything else. Instead of providing answers or pushing the story forward in meaningful ways, the game often left me with more questions than I started with. I mean, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Stories that build anticipation can be good. Like, for example, Beyond the Spider-Verse. That movie was kind of just build-up, and it was good. They did it correctly, unlike Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The mysteries introduced in Remake weren't really expanded upon in Rebirth. Instead, new layers of complexity was added without giving any real resolution to what had already been set up. By the end, I was left feeling more confused and excited to what's to come next. And the pacing of the game didn't help either. Rebirth is riddled with filler segments that felt like unnecessary padding. These sections drag down the overall experience, turning what could have been tight and engaging narrative into a slogfest. I mean, this game probably, erasing all the filler out, it probably could have been 50 to 60 hours long, but it ended up being 80 to 90 hours long. Exploring vast areas with little narrative payoff, completing repetitive side quests, and enduring drawn-out combat encounters made the game feel like it was trying too hard to stretch out its content. Unlike Remake, which felt focused and purposeful, Rebirth often lost its momentum. Now, don't get me wrong here, Remake does have some filler. I remember when the game first came out, that was almost a big problem for the game. But the game isn't as long as Rebirth. So filler in Remake would be 30 minutes long, while Rebirth is an hour to an hour and 30 of just straight padding and filler. It's just not fun playing the game sometimes. In the end, Rebirth didn't capture the same magic that Remake did. While Remake kept me on the edge of my seat with its bold narrative changes and stunning visuals, like for example, the end of the game, Rebirth felt like it was treading water. The story didn't advance in ways I hoped, and the filler content made getting through the game more of a chore than an actual joy. If Remake was about reimagining the original with fresh energy, Rebirth felt like it was just laying down the groundwork for something yet to come without delivering a satisfying experience in the meantime. Rebirth just feels like a game of what could have been. I'm making this video now just because of the fact that I beat the game yesterday as of recording this video. Mind you, I got the game on release. I stopped playing it for a while because I got burnt out because you get to a chapter and the chapter is like 10 hours long with 6 hours of filler. Or not even, probably 8 hours of filler. And 2 hours of content you actually wanted. Like, for example, going to the Nibelheim Mansion. This part to me was absolutely crazy. I was like, oh, this is the part where we see Vincent. Is he gonna come out the coffin? And it turned to an absolute slogfest to get through because the party separates and you play as Cloud for a little bit and then you play as Kate Sith, throwing boxes around. This is not a PS2 game, this is a PS5 game. Why am I throwing boxes around, pressing these buttons, and why is it taking so long to do it? This is not a PS2 game, what is going on? It just really turned moments like that into something that I didn't care about it when I actually got to the moment. When I actually got to see Vincent, I was just like, this is cool, but it took 4 hours to get here. Yay. And like I said, Rebirth just kind of feels like build-up. Nothing really happens in the game until the end. I mean, Tifa dies and then comes back to life, and then Aerith dies and then not dead, and then she is dead at the same time. It's just so weird. And really, this game could be summed up in really 2 sentences. There's different timelines, and that's about it. Wait for part 3. While Remake had something where going in was like, whoa, what is going on? You didn't know those different timelines yet. You didn't know what the whispers were until the very end. And it left you theorizing what was going to happen while you're playing the game. So let me compare the ending of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? Rebirth ends in the City of Ancients. So as soon as you get there, as soon as you get close to Aerith, you see Sephiroth falling, right? Doing Hell's Gate, you know, the move that kills Aerith. But then Cloud saves her, but then doesn't save her at the same time. It's like some weird thing going on that honestly ruined the moment for me. Because just give me a straight answer, is she dead or not? It just seems like Tetsuya Nomura just has so much stuff going on. There's just so much ideas thrown on the table and all just meshed into one thing. It feels so meshed up. It's weird because you see Cloud save her, and then you see Cloud glitch out and then not save her, and then you see blood and not see blood. It's just like the weirdest thing ever. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh, what a way to ruin a iconic moment, to make it not happen and happen at the same time. It was just really ugh. And then you fight Genova, you fight her 8 phases, and then you fight Sephiroth, you fight his 20 phases, and then you finally get to the actual final battle in the world that never was, Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff. Because honestly, this whole boss fight felt like Kingdom Hearts 3. It felt like Sephiroth was Xehanort, and Aerith was Kairi, and Cloud was Sora. Because it's like almost the exact same thing.
Kairi! You require motivation. Kairi! Why her?
Two very boring minutes later.
Kairi!
can do this.
Two hours later.
Let's end this. Together.
I must admit.
Then after you beat him, he kind of just goes off and says bye-bye.
Goodbye, goodbye, thank you, goodbye.
Why is he laughing?
Because he knows this isn't over.
Goodbye, goodbye, thank you, goodbye.
It's like, what? Meanwhile, in Remake, when you beat Sephiroth, he brings you to the edge of creation.
Let us defy destiny together.
Never.
Not yet. Seven seconds till the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. But what will you do with it? Let's see.
And then Cloud's just left standing there. Now we're comparing that to the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth one, where he literally just says bye. After you fight him, Sephiroth does to Cloud what he does to Sora in Kingdom Hearts 2. Wipes dirt off his shoulder and then dips. Like, am I supposed to be left satisfied with that ending? After all the 20, 30 phases you had me fight with all my party members, I get a bye-bye smirk, I'm gone. Are you, like, I'm supposed to feel satisfied with that ending? That felt awful. And then you get a 30-minute cutscene, which I forgot the character. I think his name is Glenn, because you see him only in cutscenes and he's a mystery guy. But at this point, it's like, I don't care anymore. This game honestly just feels like Kingdom Hearts 3 to me. Where it left me disappointed in the end is because I expected a cohesive story and some questions to be answered that were questions in the previous title, and I was left with more questions than answers. Now, I know it was obviously a part 3 to this game, but I have to wait 4 years for that, and Rebirth just left a sour taste in my mouth. I mean, I'm still gonna get the game, it's not the same. Remake really was a great introduction, while Rebirth was honestly just mid.